What if you took Don't Starve, Digital Circus, and Undertale, mixed them in a bowl and sprinkled in a bunch of vibrant colors? Well, you'll get Illusion Carnival. Now, what is Illusion Carnival? Well, it's a 2.5D indie RPG psychological horror game, that was a tongue twister, that was released on 11th March 2024. It's an amazingly stylized and visually stunning game, as you can see from the gameplay, and it's also stunning in its writing and music. However, it's still not fully complete and only one chapter has been released, which we will be delving into today. Also, massive spoiler warning, as I will be covering the first chapter. So if you want to play this game with a fresh mind, go play it first. But I won't be covering every single bit, so if you'd like, you can continue watching. Anyway, let's get in, shall we? So as I started up the game, I was immediately taken aback by the beautiful starting screen. Then I press the start button and the show starts as these curtains fall down. We start this game as a little soul and go through the tutorial phase, and oh my, everything about this game is so visually stimulating. The fact that everything is kind of paper-like, yet you can still move around the camera is so cool. And again, the stylized look of this game is amazing. Aside from that, we make it to an entrance with a sign that says Confettia, and we walk up to meet two mysterious figures welcoming us to Confettia, and we also choose our name. We'll just keep it simple, Biscuit's fine. We then get given one of those paper fortune teller thingies that you make in school, but we get turned into a paper boat for some reason and get thrown into Confettia. Also, the one thing that really took me by surprise was the camera work during these cutscenes. They're so amazing and so well done. But we make it into Confettia as this really cute and adorable character. We also get introduced to a dashing mechanic, which is not a good sign, especially in a horror type game. So after my small brain got distracted with the surrounding, I finally advance onto the next stage, where we chase down a ghost and find a piano. Then a weird looking butterfly, get it? Looking, cause it has an eye. Anyway, the butterfly turns into one handsome looking fella named Dellarini, who immediately starts pointing sharp objects at us within 5 seconds of conversing. But not to worry, because no one can actually get physically hurt here. Then we find that the weird looking ghost thingy at the start that we were chasing around was actually another visitor named Demetria. Anyway, this caused Dellarini to go wild because 2 visitors at once is not at all common. So, talking with Dellarini, we find that this place is a type of limbo, a space between the mortal world and the underworld. So we can't really die in this place. Well, except for something else. Although the physical bodies can get hurt here, the spirit of the souls can indeed get eroded, leading to a cruel reality where your soul is stuck forever and all sanity left in you is lost, never able to escape. But he then leaves us and we immediately get chased down by weird looking hands and even weirder things blocking our way. Fortunately, we make it out, but unfortunately Demetria got snatched away. Then, after talking with Dellarini again, where did he even appear from? We find out about the abnormals, the weird freaky things that chase us down and blocked our paths. But we of course fall again and found ourselves on a moving cart. Anyways, I suffered especially here, not because of the projectiles, but because of how fast these subtitles were going. And the added factor of me streaming did not help out. I don't know if this is intentional, but I think they have to tune it down a tad bit because my mush of a brain Can't read that fast. Speaking of this, I must mention transportation is... I can't finish reading. Please, Confetti Factory. But after the abnormal tries to feast on us, someone randomly pops in telling us a pathway that's completely different to that of Dellarini's, and she also teaches us how to use the Auric Hurt. But of course, she had to reveal my secret by predicting that there's a bald spot under my paper boat. So as we finish talking with her, she randomly tries to attack us and starts a boss fight. I honestly don't know what's going on. However, this was really fun though. It reminded me of Undertale. From the patterns to the projectiles, it was really enjoyable. But then she just plays it off as if she didn't just launch Sans' first attack and tells me that I have dandruff? Why is this turning into a roasting session? Anyway, she tells us her name, Illusia. Then after telling us that she doesn't exist, the whole screen glitches and we reach a new area called the Button House. Thankfully, things cool down a bit from here on out and we can actually process what had just happened. Anyway, we find a dessert shop selling various healing items. But after realizing I'm too broke to buy anything, I moved on to a new area and found Dellarini again, who after spitting out the most absurd and confusing statements, gives a warning about Illusia and not to trust her. Seems like there's some beef between these two. But with that said, next up we got the Wheel of Fortune. And look at that, it's Demetria. Anyway, so the game show person captured us and we play a series of games in order to free Demetria as well as ourselves. But we beat the host, who then lets us go. So this next part is pretty head splitting. So there's these weird boxes that lets us travel for the cost of a gingerbread, and after taking the first one, we start getting into a loop, solving puzzles, finding gingerbread, and going deeper into the boxes. Also here, I may have spent 40 minutes trying to figure this puzzle out and resorting to watching a YouTube video. But as we enter deeper, we find a more disturbing part of the Carnival, looking as if all the vibrant colors that we previously saw had been sucked out. Then suddenly, all the colors seems to come back, but extremely bright and vibrant this time around, a lot more than it was at the start. And after seeing some disturbing scenes, we find a sign that tells us to not look back. Of course. So after outrunning that thing, we find ourselves in a room surrounded by doors. But no matter which door we take, we end up at the same place. Again and again and again. And after realizing we're stuck in a loop, a swarm of abnormals surround us, but then the floor breaks and we survive. So after getting completely lost and losing my mind in this maze, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. We finally make it out and find Dellarini again, who saves us from this cursed box. So as we land on this new area, Dellarini disappears again. What a surprise. But we get to meet two new characters, Alias the Magician and Zip the Warden. The latter is a bit, how do you put this, discriminative towards things that are colorless. Most probably because colorless things come from a darker area of the Carnival. But ignoring that, we finish talking to Al after hiding from Zip, and we make it to the next area where we hop on a carpet and find ourselves face to face with a weird looking teddy bear who throws a barrage of attacks at us. And I was not prepared for this. After all that running we did in the creepy area and the chill vibes of the area after that, I was expecting something light, but no! This feels like a modded Undertale fight. But after all that beautiful music and scenery during the fight, we somehow beat it with our Auric Hurt and find ourselves in a completely different looking area of the Button House. Making our way through this corridor, we find a platform at the end showing us a view of the outside. A cluster of flowers, buttons, cogs, plushies, and more all floating beautifully in the sky. But after that breathtaking and rather confusing scenery, we make it onto a flying train. So while making our way to a new area, Demetria talks to us, telling us that she was here before, and a lot of other spicy lore stuff. But after getting interrupted for the 100th time by the train conductor man, we look around the train and something was clearly wrong. Finding weirdly disturbing black goo and suddenly getting teleported to somewhere else where the same weird creatures followed. Then we find the most disturbing part of the game. Looking from an uncomfortable angle, we navigate around these areas with barely visible words telling us where to go. And as we navigate, we find more and more disturbing sights. Eyes, butterflies, then a stage. And as the curtains open, a huge butterfly stands as we listen to noises so intensely mixed together that you can't make out a single thing. Then, nothing. But with the end of chapter 1, we get a few extra stuff, such as character sheets, sketches, fan art, and most importantly, this animation that might point towards the actual origin of this so-called space between the underworld and the mortal world. This game is honestly so beautiful in the visual and gameplay aspect. I really loved all the little mechanics that are in this game, and I especially loved the characters and how widely different they are from one another. The cast is as vibrant as the colors in this game. But talking about colors, let's talk about the visuals again, because it's just so unique and beautiful. The art style is so clean and simplistic, and the actual animations and camera work make it that much better. I'll definitely be having some art studies on this game. Another captivating part of this game is the music and sound effects. They're so well done and amazingly implemented. But on a different note, I love the little puzzles in between each part and the notes spread across the world, hinting at a secret probably to be found out later. I'm honestly not smart enough to put 2 and 2 together, but it gives you a lot to wonder about. The actual fight mechanic in this game is so cool. I love how tricky yet manageable it is, and I'd love to see more of this mechanic being used in the future, as I felt like it was underutilized here. Now, the story is something that we can't really talk about at this very moment, because I feel like the first chapter is supposed to be mysterious and sets up for the later chapters. However, a lot of theories can be made off of what we already know. Personally, I believe that all of this is just an imagination or, well, illusion, as is mentioned various times in the game, and from what we see, it seems these 2 children are probably orphans who wish to see a real carnival or a means of escape. It seems as if our main character and Demetria are the 2 kids, but since Demetria has been in and out of this place, it could mean something about her. I don't really want to say too much as I'm no theorist, but I'll leave it up to you big brain people. But with that said, there are 2 things that threw me off a bit, and that's the grammar in these dialogues. It seems like the creator isn't a native English speaker, which makes sense, but I think a better translation would go a really long way. And also, some parts of the dialogue, especially the announcer person, felt way too fast at some points, to the point where I couldn't keep up. I have no idea if this is intentional, but I hope they slow those parts a bit down for us slow readers. However, with that being said, I feel like this game has such an incredible potential to be big in the future. I'll definitely keep up with updates, and I really hope that this game receives the fanbase and attention that it truly deserves. That being said, this game is honestly a solid 9 out of 10. 10 out of 10 visuals though. Anyways, bye.